Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Hager number 1447. This is a drive-in style ball catch is what it is. This is a very common item that you see in residential applications in the header and in the top rail, installed in the header of the frame for the strike, and then the roller latch in the top rail of the door. You'll see it really in a pair of doors that on the door there is no locking, no privacy function. You probably have roller latches like this, and then dummy trim on both sides of the door is generally what you'll end up seeing when you have a roller latch. Or you have maybe a pantry and some sort of a pull, and you just need to keep the door in the latch position, and a ball drive-in style catch like this would be ideal for that sort of application. Okay. The Us15 is a reference to the finish around the trim of the unit itself. You're not really going to see any of this usually when it's installed, certainly when it's in the top rail of the door. But the strike you're going to most likely see. You'll see it when the door is obviously open and you look up to the header is when you're going to see that. On the pull side of the door, you're going to end up seeing perhaps the lip of the strike, just a touch, but not much of this hardware at all. However, having said that, Hager naturally offers it in lots of different finishes. Let's take a look at what those other finishes are as I pull them up. Okay, so antique bronze with a lacquer over it, satin nickel, antique nickel, polished chrome, satin chrome, polished brass, satin brass, antique brass is what you're going to see all of those finishes available in. This ball catch is going to include the 2 screws that you're going to need to secure the strike to the header or to the jamb. You could mount this in the normal lock position. This is going to be installed down into a hole that will be drilled in the door altogether. And let's take a look. Now below this video is going to be a link to the installation instructions, and there's certainly a lot of detail that's there for just a typical ball catch, but you know, it's all important to have there. But to distill it down to its essence, what you have is the important part is to locate the center line of the strike, and you're going to use the simple formula that they have there to calculate dimension Y. Dimension Y is 1/2 of the door thickness plus 1/8 of an inch. Gap between the door and frame should be at least 1/8 of an inch. So what they're saying is from the stop face to the face of the door, you're going to have 1/8 of an inch margin that's going to be there, is what they'd like to see. And then that's where you're going to position the strike, to the center line of the screw holes, and then at that point it's understood that you're going to mount this in the center of the thickness of the door. If you wanted to be as exact as possible, you could put a caliper on your door. An 1 3/8 door does not measure 1.375. An 1 3/4 door doesn't measure 1.75. They're always slightly off. A little bit thinner generally. Occasionally you'll find something thicker, but that's unusual unless you have a laminated door. If you've taken a solid core door and then put vertical grade laminate onto it, yeah, your door can be greater than 1.75. It will be. But I've seen 1 3/8 doors that are 1.32. Well, that's a noticeable difference of about 50 thousandths or so, almost a 1/16 of an inch. And if you want your work to be as exact as possible, you've got to measure the door thickness, and a caliper is the best way to do that. Once you have the center line of the strike determined, you're just literally matching up the center line of the ball catch itself with the dimple that's in the strike. Okay, what you're going to do is they want you to drill Forgive me, I'm searching for the size of the hole to drill for the ball catch. I would guess it's 15. Oh, it is 15/16. Step 1, choose the height at which to mount the hardware and mark an X on the door edge. Make sure the X is in the center of the door edge before moving on. Measure your door thickness. Make sure it's in the center. Drill a 15/16 hole, 1.25 inches deep, where the X was marked on the door edge. So 15/16 and then 1.25 inches deep. So that's 1.25 inches. That'll be certainly sufficient. And then they want 15/16. Well, the drawing there shows that the outside dimension of the ball catch is 1 inch. My caliper tells me it's .087. Yeah, so not quite an inch, but that's okay. You have this steel sleeve that's there. The diameter of the body, just for sake of reference, is .088. Pardon me. It's .081. And when you add this sleeve onto there with these two small little tangs that are on the outside, and then you drill your 15/16 of an inch hole, which is .9375. With the sleeve, now we're .0926. .0926. So 15/16 is going to be really great because these little tangs are going to severely compress into the hole and make this a quite tight fit. I've had people ask me how to get them out of the door. I've had people basically go to war against these things and disassemble everything they possibly can to get the darn thing out. Yeah, I mean, you probably want to just coax it out with a very thin blade instrument underneath with the intention of being able to pull this out and then being able to get inside of here with some sort of a long nose plier situation. You want to compress it a little bit and then you'll be able to hopefully drive it out without damaging the door. But the intent is that it's not to move on you. So it's meant to stay on the door is the bottom line. But very occasionally people need to remove them because they failed. That sort of thing. Okay, so 15/16 hole, 1.25 inches deep. Tap catch into hole until lip sits flush on the door edge. So the factory and I agree. Put a wooden block on here and compress that ball bearing, and then with a mallet carefully tap it in, and you'll get it flush. Step 4, line up strike on frame so that its center line matches center line of ball catch. Make sure curved lip faces out. Use the formula below to determine where to place it. We've already done that. The rest of the dimensions on this strike, about 1 3/8 overall width. Strikes are measured from the center line of the lip to the from the center line of the screw to the outside of the lip, and you can see that this is about 13/16. Overall height, typical 2.25 sort of dimension is what that strike's going to have for us there. Okay, and again, those two screws are going to be included with the hardware. Okay, step 5: mark outline of the strike and the center of the screw holes with a pen. I'm sure they meant pencil. Mortise this area on the frame 1/16 of an inch deep or until the strike sits flush. So basically, don't surface mount this. Mortise it to the header or to the jamb. Make it completely flush. Drill a 1/16 of an inch pilot holes for the screws. Absolutely pre-drill for your screws. You don't want to split the wood. That is a real fatal error to make have happen. 1/16 of an inch size. Generally, when it comes to pre-drilling a hole, I would use, depending on the species of lumber that's been used, I would go like maybe, 80% of the root diameter of the screw for a soft wood, and I'd probably go closer to the root diameter itself for a hardwood species of wood. Step 8, attach the strike. Step 9, using the slots on the face of the ball catch housing, rotate ball catch housing clockwise to decrease projection or rotate counterclockwise to increase. These two little slots are what they're referring to there. What would be really great would be to have some sort of a spanner tool for using this, for adjusting this. Generally, what I find is people use like a hardened nail to get in there and just rotate it. It does turn fairly easily. And then, of course, setting the projection of the ball is going to do a couple of things. It's going to compensate for the margin that's between the door and the header or the jamb. And once you've got, it's securing, you can then continue that process to finally, or bring to a final fit between the hardware and the door and the frame, so that it is not only secure but stays secure. So you can tailor the projection of the ball for that reason. The notes that are there, note 1 was how to locate the strike. Note 2, gap between door and frame should be at least 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, you're not going to be able to draw that down, to account for a very, very tight fit. In residential construction, it'll probably be no problem having 1/8 of an inch. If mounting on top style of door and frame head, place center line of catch 2.5 inch back from the lock edge of door. Okay, so in a pair of doors, from the center line, go 2.5 inch over each way. That's not a fixed rule. That will work. You're going to want to probably inspect the construction of the door at the top to make sure that when you're drilling your 15/16 hole, that it makes sense where you're going to put it. But 2.5 inch either side of the center line between two doors, yes, that's a very good rule of thumb. There's also a link below this video to the document called Product Catalog, and that's where you will be able to review other residential hardware from Hager. Door stops of a various type. Flush bolts are there for wood doors. Other ancillary hardware. Other ball catches. Other closet rods are there. Closet rod and supports. Handrail brackets. Hat and coat hooks are also there. Then finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Hager products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. The name Hager is quite synonymous with hardware, especially hinges, but they have an utterly comprehensive offering of hardware, whether it be hinges or door closers, lock sets, exit devices, weather stripping, trim and auxiliary hardware, sliding, folding, bypassing, pocket door hardware, ancillary hardware like signage, of electrified hardware. It goes on and on. Everything for the door and frame except the door and frame itself. Hager's been in business since the mid-19th century, and that's not an exaggeration. And it's definitely a fact that you do feel Hager is quite proud of. Any questions on the 1447 ball catch or any other Hager product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.